Hey, what's going on, everybody? Alex with you here again as usual. Thank you for dropping by. Just wanted to make another quick video. This time I wanted to make it a little bit more engaging. Instead of just picking up chess pieces and showing them up close to the camera, I figured I would actually take out a chess set, put it on a chessboard, and do the best I can as far as play an actual game on the board so that you guys can get the best idea as far as what this particular chess set may look like on the board while you're actually playing game, whether you're playing game or somebody else is playing a game and you're just standing next to that person and watching. I guess one of the things that I didn't realize is that I've never actually shown you guys what the burnt Dubrovnik looks like on a board. And I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to go ahead and take out the chess set again, put it on the new board that I just bought recently, and kind of give you guys an idea as far as what this particular combination may look like. I personally think that this board is a very well made board with sort of a neutral, very nice neutral colors. I feel like this is one of the more successful boards that I've had, and I feel like many pieces that I have will go really well together on this board, just because the dark squares are like not too dark, and it goes well with a lot of pieces that I have. Now, I wanted to make this particular video a little bit more engaging in a sense that I'm not teaching you guys how to play chess. I'm not pretending to be a master or anything by any means. I'm not showing you guys how to play chess. I just wanted to show you guys one of my games, and I wanted to ask people that are watching this video to maybe, like, if you look at the game that I've played, what would you have done differently if you had to play this game? At which points do you think I made blunders? Because let's face it was pretty late at night, and I felt like I made at least several blunders and several inaccuracies, a couple of mistakes. Like, both players made blunders, but it was late, and I kind of tried to make the best of it. So let's get started. I was playing black. This was a 10-minute game. Most of the games I play, in fact, are 10-minute games, just because it seems to work out for me. The opponent started with the queen pawn move. So usually, if the opponent ends up opening this way, I already kind of sort of anticipate that there's a likelihood that they might try to open up with a queen's gambit. And for that, I went ahead and I just responded equally. Okay? And yes, the opponent did push his pawn forward, as I would have anticipated. So I've played the queen's gambit as white many times before, and I really don't like when opponents play that same type of opening against me, simply because it's too easy to fall into a trap of having a bunch of pieces develop. They oftentimes open up into the center, develop the knight, usually develop the knight prior to this, and then they basically open up this whole area, including pushing the pawn, mobilizing the queen, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you have a bishop here, a queen here, an extra pawn, and then you start pushing this forward, and things just end up getting out of control because you just have such a big force of all your pieces kind of being mobilized this way. So for that particular reason, I really kind of try to avoid, by all means, doing a queen's gambit accepted. So I went with this typical opening, and in fact, when I play against somebody with the queen's gambit like this, they will still develop in a very similar way that they would if they were to play the queen's gambit, but I tried to break up that formation as much as possible. So what I did is I pushed out the bishop. I don't know whether it's a good move or not. Like I said, at any point while you guys are looking at this game, I want you guys to put your heads together, really think about, this particular game, and by all means comment. Let me know, like, what would you have done differently? I think that some parts of the game I have blundered quite a lot, and I will tell you guys where I felt like I blundered. And then in some areas I made mistakes, but it was an interesting game overall, just the formation of the pawns and everything. So that's how I went. They responded with the bishop, kind of protecting that knight, and basically allowing the knight to be freed up go out and explore, depending on what other measures I'm planning to take. I took out the knight here. I'm doing two things. I'm opening up so I can maybe castle at some point soon, and I'm also potentially eyeing this square here, maybe doing a little bit of an exchange here, possibly push this. I'm not really sure, but I definitely wanted to go ahead, and I felt like this was going to be a good route. Once again, maybe not by the book, but I felt like it was going to be a good move. So the opponent responded by opening up their knight. Now sometimes these type of normal development moves like this one here may not be the best necessarily, but in this case I felt like now he's got a spot over here. I cannot, I don't have protection for this spot. He can move his knight readily over here and start doing some kind of an issue right over here. So I decided, let's just go ahead and respond with that, protect that square. Put an eye on this pawn, protect pretty much every piece I can. Now he's opening up a little bit. He's not opening up all the way, since he kind of realizes that may not be the best route right now to take, because I have the pawn and the knight. So he opens up halfway, once again, kind of opening up that bishop. I think that his intent here was to get the bishop out so he can castle, since I guess he saw that I was trying to castle at some point. And on this move, I end up castling. So didn't really waste that much time, because my intention was I want to pretty soon try to push this pawn forward. And the only way I can push this pawn forward with so much in the way is maybe if I could get the rook out here like this and try to push this forward, start exchanging some pieces, create some kind of control of the center. Now he's pushing the pawn forward. Now he realizes that I might be doing that soon. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to say, look, either go ahead and get started exchanging pieces, or let's figure something out what we want to do. So I don't know. I thought about maybe pushing this back, but the problem is pushing this back. Now all of a sudden, he's pushing his pawns forward, creating quite a nice pawn chain, and all of a sudden I have to figure out where else to go, and I don't really have anywhere to go. So that was kind of maybe push it back here or push it back in the beginning, but then I'm kind of stuck. So I decided, you know what, it's kind of stuck here anyway, so if I push here, he could push here maybe. So I went ahead and I thought, well, let's just go ahead and exchange. So I exchanged that. He exchanged with his bishop. So now we have this square that's a little bit more opened up, since we've taken care of the knight, and at that point I'm thinking let's go ahead and maybe start developing. If I go here, I'm really not winning anything per se, because the bishop here is protected, everything else is protected. He could potentially pull out a bishop here, try to get himself to castle quicker. So instead what I did is I went out with the rook. Like I said, just keep looking. Maybe there's some blunders you guys will pick up sooner or later. I will show you which blunder I felt like I really messed up on. And in fact, he did push out the bishop. Simply, I guess he was trying to put a bishop in the right spot. This seems like a good spot, plus he's probably intending to castle on the next move. So now we're kind of getting into the sort of interesting area of the game. I decided to go ahead and maybe proceed with starting to exchange some pieces if possible. So I went here, and this is where we're kind of maybe I shouldn't have necessarily done that. It's kind of a little bit more of an aggressive move. I felt like I could have just continued pushing things, but I'm putting my knight out here because I felt like, well, the knight's not really doing a whole lot otherwise. I mean, it's protecting some areas here. It's definitely protecting this, but I felt like I needed to get things going, so I put the knight out here. The opponent was like, hey, opportunity, so he took and got his knight out here. And also what I wanted to do is I actually was looking forward to this particular variation because I wanted to open up this file, push my pawn out of the way, and maybe kind of start to open up the queen file That's what I was kind of hoping for. So I'm doing kind of two. I'm attacking the knight here. I'm trying to open up this file. Now, the opponent was playing very carefully. You'll see here in just a second. So he's moving around. Now, all of a sudden, he's also trying to do something and take my pawn here. Now, this is where I felt like I probably blundered. I didn't really take into consideration. I felt like, well, I could have sacrificed that that pawn for the sake of further development of my ideas, because I was trying to push things forward. So instead of protecting the pawn, maybe I should have, I don't know, maybe I should have taken out a pawn here to protect it. Maybe I should have done something differently, but instead what I did is I could have probably done something else, but instead I just pushed this pawn forward. And once again, I'm trying to sort of start attacking the center here and opening things up. And when I made that move, I thought, oh man, he's gonna take my pawn here. Whether or not that's a good thing, but I mean, if he was gonna take that pawn here, I probably would have taken it here, and all of a sudden his bishop's under attack, and at the same time his knight's under attack. So maybe it wasn't the most terrible move I could have made, but instead he didn't. He didn't take my pawn here. What he ended up doing instead is maybe something along the same lines. He pushed his pawn forward. So now he's trying to advance his pawns. He's also kind of sort of looking at where he's going to position his pieces, where he's going to, create the pawns. He's attacking my knight here, and now my knight has to go somewhere. So I didn't really have many spots here. This one's, it would have been a goner. This one's goner. Not much going on here. So really the only spot is go back here or go back here. So I decided, let's go ahead and go back here. He castles. So maybe this seemed like a good, he pushed enough. So now he's like, okay, well, maybe we'll go ahead and castle, protect the king from any possible forks or anything like that. And then I pushed this forward with an anticipation, like I knew that his next move might be push this forward, but I knew that he would have to kind of push this pawn forward and try to get things closer. So that's what I did. I kind of said, okay, you're going to take, or what are we going to do? Because if he were to take, I could take back maybe with with a knight here, and things wouldn't be too bad. Kind of reopen my position here. But look at all this. This right here is completely left unprotected by the bishop. This is unprotected. Like, there's just so much stuff that's unprotected the more that I see it. But he played by go ahead and take it. And that's what I did. I went ahead and I took it. So now I guess I've done myself a favor by reopening. I'm pretty much kind of giving up on this one, I suppose. Giving up on this pawn at this point. He is going to be going ahead and pushing, because I feel like now he's seeing that there's opportunity. He can kind of crush me, or try to crush me by pushing all his pieces forward and kind of mobilizing things. I'm already starting to feel a little bit of pressure on this side, but I'm like, okay, well, I gotta still protect the pawn, because I'm like, this pawn's been sitting there. So I went ahead and I kind of protected it that way. Now he's moving out. See, now he's opening up the lane for potential exchange of the queens. Now, at first point, when he made that move, I thought, hey, okay, so I can take his queen. But then if I take his queen, then maybe he'll take one of his rooks out. Now he's got control of an open file. Not the best, because now he's going to stick that rook there and keep it there forever. And I don't have, my two rooks are not connected, so I cannot exchange at this point, not yet. And I like my knight here for the time being, so I was like, well, if there's going to be an exchange that's going to happen between the queens, I'm just going to wait for him to do it, and that's going to be to my benefit probably. And also what he's doing is he's trying to maybe position his knight right over here in the future to really try to push on on some of these pieces, potentially eyeing the pawn here if I end up moving my bishop out of the way. So he's trying to gain some degree of control here, as you can see. And I saw the potential for exchange, and I thought to myself, okay, why don't we, if he's going to intend to exchange, possibly, why don't we make it to my favor? I have a doubled up pawn, so I thought, why not make this risky move? I am telling him basically, okay, I have the possibility of either taking your bishop here, or I can take the pawn, or I can take the queen. Now, if you take my queen, I'm going to basically try to relieve and kind of reorganize my pawn structure. If you don't take my queen, and if you try to move in the way somewhere to, let's say, to protect your bishop, then I'll take your, potentially, I'll take the pawn. So I could win a pawn out of this. And I guess he realized the same thing too, so the game's going to proceed without queens. He took, and I took, as I was intending for things to happen. You know, if there's going to be exchange, I better, you know, benefits one way or another out of it. Okay, so he comes out here and he's thinking he's going to go ahead and try to establish some kind of control on this file. And this sort of completes things because I can nicely put my pawn right over here. He doesn't have a white square bishop, so things are working out right now because even though I opened things up and I opened up this lane, I'm not in immediate danger. If he had a white square bishop, I probably would try to keep something from him coming around and checking my king. So, and now he is doing an interesting combination here because now he's saying, okay, let's go ahead and try to exchange, maybe exchange rooks or do something like that. And I didn't necessarily want to exchange it because if I were to exchange it, he would then take mine, and now he has this huge pawn structure that he could quickly turn into a very sort of fierce structure and could start taking my pieces. So I really didn't necessarily feel like I wanted to, you know, because he's clearly putting his knight here to say, okay, are you going to exchange, or, you know, what are we going to do? He's trying to weaken this side for me, and I don't necessarily want to do that. So instead I go here, and to try to see if I can maybe take this pawn, because this pawn is not protected. There's in fact really no way that he could protect this pawn at this moment, so the only thing that he could do, plus if I were to take this pawn, I could position myself right over here, and this is a nice little spot because once again, nobody right now can take me, so this would be a very powerful little spot. So instead he proceeds to go ahead and push the pawn forward, and I say, you know what? I'm still going to push my knight here because I felt like, hey, he's pretty safe here. He controls a lot of squares. I could potentially be eyeing this pawn here, so if he pushes the rook out of the way or does this, I've got control of maybe taking this pawn over. So that was I felt like that was good, and he realized the same thing too, so he pushed the pawn forward. And now here, I'm just, I don't know, for the sake of completing the pawn chain right over here and creating a pretty strong pawn skeleton, I just pushed the pawn forward. Now, I guess his thought process is he's going to just go ahead and push these three pawns forward, try to really create a big problem here, which could turn into a problem because he's got a knight over here. He could potentially push further here, and all of a sudden, I need to mobilize more pieces. I can't protect here. I can't really protect here, so now I'm a little bit in trouble, and I would have to like figure something out. So he's definitely doing something. So realizing this, I don't want him to push this further, so I went ahead and just kind of took out the bishop, and he did. He went ahead, and I guess he wanted to go ahead and start exchanging pieces. I took this one here, and he proceeded to exchange here. So now his pawn is still protected. I need to figure out a way how to get out of this situation because I'm not going to take it with my bishop since I don't have another piece that I could attack with. So I pushed my bishop here because really I don't have a lot of places to take my bishop. I could have put him here. Here, I thought maybe I could come back around from this way and maybe push the rook somewhere here, and then that way, if he was going to come around here, I was afraid that he was going to try to come here and then push, and really try to kind of create a problem here. But what I did is I pushed here with that intention. Now he goes here because now his thought process is. He's going to try to fork, and then I wanted to prevent that, and at the same time attack this pawn. So I pushed this out. Now I think this may be a blunder, possibly a blunder. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's probably a blunder. Maybe. Well, let me see. Why didn't I go here instead? Because there was a thought process. I went here, and I thought to myself that he might possibly take this, but he didn't. So that might have been a blunder, the more I'm looking at it. He could have taken here, and then I could have done this, and then he would have had to go back. And I mean, it's not that much of a blunder, because I think I would have been able to take that piece. So, but let's see. There we go. I still wanted to do it this way, so I guess it would have been just an equal exchange. Now, mind you, I was playing this probably at 10 o'clock in the evening, and I was exhausted. But the game was, I could tell that I was playing an opponent that was really carefully trying to calculate their moves. It wasn't super highly rated, but you could tell some people really want to try to play nicely. Just don't make a lot of mistakes. So he pushes his pawn forward. He knows he's protecting the pawn. He's really kind of getting me into a corner here. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I need to try to get rid of this pawn. And I guess there's a number of things he can do, but I just push this pawn forward because I'm saying, well, got to get rid of your knight, buddy. Or, he goes over here and takes that position right over there with an intention of taking my bishop, although my bishop is protected. I'm not really sure what his thought process was. This being unprotected, I thought, okay, here's my chance. I'm not doubling up on anything. Thankfully, I wasn't here, because that would have been, well, it wouldn't have been terrible, because he can't do this because my knight is protecting that square, and I knew that because this was a good position to be in. So he went ahead and he took this. Okay, so in this situation, I don't know if I expected him to go ahead, but it looks like he's trying to start to liquidate his pieces. He took my my bishop, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and take. Obviously, there's that seems like a logical move here. Now he's trying to push his way here. Now he's trying to probably either check me here. Or maybe I'm thinking he wants to go ahead and double up somehow, so he might push his way maybe this close, and then try to push this in, and then try to go down. So I can see that he's trying to do something. So he pushes his piece here, and I'm thinking, well, I don't want to do that. I really want to eliminate that threat here. I just don't want that rook or the other rook to be coming over here, because this is kind of a vulnerable little corner over here. I don't want. So what I do is I push over here closer, and he, realizing that he has a potential to, I guess, to attack here, pushes his bishop inward like this. I go and take his, because now I'm like, okay, well, that would be better than trying to position my rook in any of the other spots, since my rook was under attack. He takes it and reestablishes control of that open file. Good for him. And now I realize that I have potentially a possibility, because I have a pawn that can freely advance, and it's only 2 squares away. At this point, I go ahead and proceed with the pawn. This, I'm not sure. I think maybe it was kind of for him a tricky situation, because he thought, well, he's gonna I might advance, although he probably doesn't realize because this pawn has been left behind. So what he does is he pushes the king forward. I guess with an anticipation that he's going to try to get that piece. And what I did is I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to move here, attack the rook. At this point, he has a couple of options that he could do. I didn't know which one was best because my intention was at this point was going to be, because what I did is I freed up this lane to go ahead and come over here and try to basically attack. I thought maybe what he would do in this situation is maybe he would do something like this. I don't know. Maybe not the best thing, because he has to now figure out where to put this guy. And I mean, he could have done it here, but I'm just not sure what the best option would have been. So I pushed my he pushed his rook right over here. Not really sure what he was thinking at that point. And I pushed it here, check, and then he resigned. So that's just the game that I want to show you guys. Yeah, I mean. Alrighty, well, now that we've seen the game, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this particular video. Like I said, I didn't necessarily intend on making this video today, but it just so happened that it dawned upon me that I didn't show you guys the Dubrovnik burnt chess set on an actual board. You know, I just showed you guys the pieces, so I thought this might be a great opportunity to do so. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video, and as always, I really appreciate all the likes you guys leave after watching these videos, and I really appreciate the comments. As always, I'm always trying to find ways to reach new audience. So if you guys enjoy any of my videos, be sure to share them, and that way more people can view them. As always, you know, everybody stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video, okay? Bye-bye.